Welcome to today's webinar on the new wave of social media. And as always, before we get started, I just want to make sure that everyone can see my slides, should see the screen that says the new wave of social media, and also that you can hear me all right, that the mic's working okay. So you should have a question box within this GoToWebinar, and there's an area there where you can type right in. And so if everyone can just take a second and do that, I just love to see that everyone can hear me okay, and that everyone can see my screen all right as well. Yep, thank you, Cassidy. Appreciate that. Thanks for taking the time to do that. Well, good. I'm glad you can hear, that you can see the screen. This is awesome. Oh, Gary, all good. Perfect. Good stuff, good stuff. All right, so since this webinar is called The New Wave of Social Media, with a focus obviously for Remax agents, it'd be a shame if I didn't actually utilize a new form of social media to help tell the story. So we're also broadcasting live on Periscope as well. So those of you who have heard of Periscope, maybe you're on it, be sure to follow at Remax Western Can, or you can follow at Remax Western Can on Twitter, and we recently sent out a tweet with the live video link. So feel free to click that, and then even if you're tuned into the webinar, you've kind of got the video side as well as the audio and the slides, the full package deal. Final item to mention before we get started is that we're using a hashtag today as well. Hashtag Remax Social. So if there's anything you find valuable in today's webinar, or if you want to send out a tweet to others, let them know that you're tuned in today, be much appreciated. You can also ask questions using that hashtag, and I'm going to go in afterwards and check those out and respond to all of your questions as well. So a huge thank you, everyone on Periscope. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone tuned into this webinar. This is awesome. We actually have a lot of people tuned in today, so this is great stuff. For those of you who haven't seen one of my social media webinars or recorded videos in the past, my name is Wade Patterson. I'm the Social Media and Communications Coordinator with Remax of Western Canada. And if you ever have any questions, anything about social media, anything about communications, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact info is on the screen there, wpatterson@remax.net. The number here, 1-800-563-3622, or if you want to get me individually on Twitter, my handle is @PattersonWade. So today's webinar, we're going to try to fit a lot of things into this half an hour. Hopefully I don't go over too much. First off, we're going to go over some of the newer forms of social media. As you'll see very quickly, some of these networks I'm going to mention have actually been around for a few years, but I think the average real estate agent isn't utilizing them. So some of them, have been around a while. Some of them are very, very new. We're also going to look at some of the tools you may or may not have heard of before and why those might be worth checking out. And finally, I'm going to break away from that a bit and talk about some of the new rules that apply to these new forms of social media. So it's 3 apps, 3 tools, 3 rules. That's kind of the theme of today's webinar. And one of the things I want to say before we get started is that these networks, some of these tools I'm going to be sharing about today, if you're brand new to social media, feel free to watch this. That's great, but don't feel pressured that you have to jump into some of these things straight away. Some of these newer social media networks, I think, are areas that are currently largely untapped by real estate agents at this point. So if you're pretty savvy with social media, they might be a good opportunity, but I don't think they're a great starting point. So, if you just set up a Facebook business page, I'd say, get comfortable with that, get used to that, and then there's maybe better stepping stone social media pieces. Some of these are maybe after you're a little bit more comfortable with all of your other social media networks. And final warning, my tips today are a bit of a mishmash. So in the past, I've done kind of, one focused webinar on one network or those types of things. I'm going to move around the map today. It's going to be all over. So just a fair warning to you, but hopefully you find value in one or several of the topics we're going to go over today. So some of you who are social media savvy might be rolling your eyes right now. The first slide on the new wave of social media is an app that was launched 5 years ago in 2010. But the reason I'm including it as a starting point in today's webinar is that although Instagram's been around for a while, it's still not being utilized by tons of agents. And I think there's a really key demographic that's using this app, which I'm going to talk about in a sec. So Instagram is just a great gateway way for real estate agents to provide good, interesting social content that can be found very easily by utilizing hashtags. So I'd like to start off, I'm going to do this for all the networks, just throwing a few stats your way. So the latest is that Instagram has 300 million monthly active users. The demographic is pretty much a coin flip, 51% male, 49% female. And interestingly, approximately 49% of the users are between 25 and 34 years old. So you've got to kind of be thinking that's prime age for first-time home buyer. So just something to keep in mind. Another benefit of Instagram is its strong engagement ratio. So there's been research that's determined Instagram's engagement ratio could be up to 60 times greater than Facebook and 140 times greater than Twitter. But what you're all wondering, I'm sure, is how specifically can you utilize Instagram? Well, first off, Instagram is one of the most visually pleasing social media apps that exists. So it's filled with great photos. And so when you start posting to Instagram, that's the first thing. You're going to want to make sure that you spend time and make sure your photos look as good as possible. One of the tools I'm going to get to later in the webinar is going to really show you how you can do that and take a step above everyone else. But even Instagram itself helps your photos look great. So every photo you upload, it's going to give you options to add filters, some basic editing options. So be sure to play around with these and see what makes your photos look the best. And the thing is, the real estate industry, it's filled with photo opportunities and things you can be taking photos of. And these can range, right? Maybe you're just volunteering in kind of a community type event, something like that. Snap a selfie, let people know you're out, you're about at this thing. People love photos of people as well. Show what you're doing. Also with the house in general, rather than just taking a photo of, you know, a house with a sold sign in front and then listing information, bring your clients putting the sold sign up or the new buyers standing in the yard of their house. Again, bringing people into these shots is a great strategy. And also, if you're wanting to focus on the houses, why not take a photo of something that's a feature that's quite unique in that house and take a photo of that? So I don't know, I've seen some agents do some cool ones. Maybe there's this old bar that's in the basement or something like that, just a classic thing. Well, nobody would know that that house has that feature if you're just taking a photo of the outside. So really try to think outside the box and take photos of selling features of those homes. And don't forget, through Instagram, you can also post videos that are 3 to 15 seconds long. And I've seen a few agents getting creative with these videos, again, utilizing video clips on unique features in the home. And there's an app you can download. I know we're not into the tools section yet, but it's called Hyperlapse. And it's actually owned by Instagram. And it allows you to speed up the video. And you can do that from 2 times the speed all the way up to 10 times. And the nice thing about Hyperlapse is it gives your video some image stabilization. So if you're walking through a cool hallway in the house or around a certain area and you're just speeding that video up just 2 times, it's not going to be so fast that it makes people dizzy, but it's enough to give that image stabilization and show a lot within that 15 seconds. But I think a huge opportunity in Instagram falls within the hashtags. So Instagram's different than other social media platforms as there's not really a such thing as hashtag overuse. So I'm going to get more into hashtags later in the webinar. However, what this essentially means is that you can tag your photo in several categories through the description so that it can be found within Instagram's search function. And the whole purpose of this is that your photos can be discovered by people who don't necessarily follow you. So somebody might have never heard of you before, but they're searching within a certain hashtag and they see your photo, it's a great image, that might gain you followers and gain attention to your Instagram account. If you are interested in Instagram and you want a bit more details about it, I have done a full webinar on Instagram. That's on the region update, so be sure to check out that recorded video. All right, next we move into an interesting one, Snapchat. So Snapchat's interesting, and I think it's an app that businesses or business people have been really hesitant to take a close look at. And part of this might have to do with its reputation Snapchat has been given in the past. I mean, after all, it's an app that allows photos to disappear after a certain number of seconds. And as many of you can guess, many of the photos that are known to be sent through Snapchat are, well, essentially photos that people want to disappear after a few seconds. So I'll let your imagination go to work there. But I think there's a few facts about Snapchat that are worth thinking twice about before completely writing it off, rolling your eyes, saying that that's something that will never work for real estate. So Snapchat was launched in September 2011, and it has 100 million daily active users. 70% of Snapchat users are female. There's an average of 400 million snaps taken per day. 30% of US millennial internet users access Snapchat on a regular basis. 45% of Snapchat users are between 18 and 24 years old. But what I think is the most interesting stat is that the percentage of marketers who use Snapchat, 1%. If you compare that to something like Facebook, we're talking about in the 90%. Twitter would be probably 80s. 1% of marketers are thinking about Snapchat right now. So there was a great article in Inman News, and it was written by a millennial actually named Kevin Hopp, and it focused on understanding millennial homebuyers through Snapchat. Kevin explained millennials are living in a fast and easy economy of Uberification, and Snapchat is all about efficiency and speed. So if you're one of those agents who is just figuring out the whole social media thing and maybe only have a couple accounts, I don't think Snapchat should be your next step. But this webinar is really for those who kind of have a robust social media presence and they're looking to expand their online reach. And that's a big reason why I'm bringing up Snapchat right now. The social media network is a gateway to a huge number of regular users. And as I mentioned earlier, only 1% of marketers are currently targeting Snapchat. Many of those millennials aren't too far away from considering home ownership. They're approaching that age. This might be a good place to reach them. But I think the big question, I mean, it's easy to throw stats out there and say, oh, figure out how to use Snapchat. But you're going to wonder, well, how realistically can I use it to benefit my real estate business? And at this point, from what I've learned, advertising on Snapchat isn't really an option. It's kind of something that's being left to the big brands with big budgets at the moment. But there was recently a blog post by Lone Wolf, and it offered some interesting ideas referring specifically to Snapchat. And the post stated that while Snapchat is not useful as a lead generating tool, it is exceptionally useful as a client engagement and retention tool. So when exchanging mobile contact information with a client, they suggested, you could politely ask if they use Snapchat and then add them to keep them updated on the house hunt. You could send interesting photos of cool properties you think they might want to check out. And the beauty about Snapchat is you give them a taste of the house by showing off key features, but then those photos go away, and it might make your client compelled to request and attend showings. But the key with Snapchat is to be thoughtful and not intrusive. And then I was trying to think, I'm like, okay, well, that's one skew where Snapchat could be used, but I think there's another, but it takes a certain type of real estate agent. But for those extroverted personalities, I think Snapchat might be a way to promote yourself, your own brand, in a way that not a lot of others are doing. So Snapchat, in the way it is a very narcissistic app because typically its users are just posting shots of their own life, figuring that other people will care about what they're doing. But the truth is, everyone I follow on Snapchat, I am looking at all of those photos that they're posting. And one of the beauties as well, just for those who aren't familiar, when you take a photo with Snapchat, you can choose the number of seconds it'll last for, so something like 2 to 10 seconds, and then that photo will disappear. Well, before you had to kind of sit through and wait for that time to elapse before you could move on to the next photo. But now you can just tap the screen and it'll fast forward. So really you can post as many photos as you want, and you're not really annoying any viewers because they can just tap through those photos very quickly. So overall, Snapchat is a good social media network, largely untapped by the real estate market at this point in time. And you may have other creative ideas how you can use it to your advantage. So yeah, if you're comfortable with social media, this might be another tool. Moving on, the next one I want to talk about is Periscope, and I've done a whole webinar on Periscope before, which you can find on the Region Update, that recorded video. However, it's very much part of this new wave of social media, and I think it's worth mentioning. So for those of you who have never heard of Periscope before, it's a social media network that allows you to broadcast what you're seeing in real time by using your smartphone camera, and all of your followers and essentially anyone else out there who is able to find your broadcast can watch what you are shooting in real time. They can tap the screen to give you hearts, and they can also comment. Of course, on my actual Periscope broadcast right now, I'm focusing on the webinar, so comments are turned off. But most of the time, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, you're going to want to allow comments and allow a conversation. There are currently 2 million daily active users on Periscope. In terms of usage, the numbers are a lot lower than some of the other social media networks. However, two things about that. The first is that it's new, right? It came out 6 months ago, and that's the numbers they're at. So it's growing, definitely. But the other thing is the fact that the user numbers are low isn't necessarily a bad thing. There's really an opportunity. It's only been around for 6 months to kind of develop perhaps a bit of a following and get used to it before it really explodes. I have a lot of faith that Periscope's gonna be a pretty successful social media app in the future, so it might be the right time to check it out now. There are 10 million Periscope accounts, and another interesting stat from Periscope is that every single day, 40 years worth of video are watched on Periscope. And that's crazy when you think about that number, considering the total number of users is kind of low. Think about when Periscope, or if Periscope, reaches 100 million daily active users. The amount of video being broadcast through that app is going to be just incredible. But since Periscope is so new, many people are still trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work on the app. From what I've observed, Periscope is an awesome medium to showcase what is happening behind the scenes and give people a picture of what they might not have access to otherwise. So for example, at our upcoming conference in Victoria, Activate, we're definitely planning to utilize Periscope. Previously, what would be a tweet of a live quote from a speaker, which we'll probably still do, that can now be a live video feed of something that's happening in real time. We've also used it, we put out market reports here at Remax, and we've utilized it as kind of one-on-one interviews with our regional executive vice president, Elton Ash. So I'll sit there, I'll record Elton, ask him questions about the report, and then in real time, people who are tuned in are also able to ask questions about what's going on. Very cool. So as a Remax agent, how can you use Periscope? Well, perhaps you could interview local businesses in the neighborhood. And another feature, just to step away from this for 1 second, Periscope has a map, and by turning your location services on, people can not only see where you're broadcasting from in terms of country, but they can see city. They can almost get right into your neighborhood that you're broadcasting from. And this might just be a great way for people to start discovering you and some of your broadcasts. So like I said, interviewing local businesses, kind of giving a feel to what your neighborhood's like. That's one great way to provide value and grow your following. And I've also seen some agents use Periscope during live open houses, something you could experiment with. But one of the very cool things that I've seen that I haven't seen a lot of realtors doing is ask a blank. So somebody might broadcast ask a journalist or ask a runway model or various professions, but I haven't seen a lot of people say ask a real estate agent. And why not be the person who does that? Ask a realtor, Q&A. So you're helping increase your name recognition, you're helping grow your following, and genuinely you're informing people about what kind of value you bring to the home buying process. So just something to think about. The big warning, though, with Periscope is that there are those out there who we refer to as trolls who will simply enter negative comments. They're there to get kind of a rise out of people. They want to just say negative and inappropriate things. The beauty about Periscope, though, is it gives you the opportunity to block these types of users. And I think that's a very smart idea, because one thing Periscope allows you to do is automatically upload a replay of your broadcast that can stick around for 24 hours. But if your broadcast is filled with these rude and inappropriate comments, those are going to show up in the replay, and it's going to kind of tarnish that viewing experience. So my personal rule for Periscope is one strike and you're out. So it might seem harsh, and it's not really the way that other social media networks work, but you want to set the tone early that you're not going to tolerate those kind of rude or offensive comments. But with all three of these networks, so Instagram, Snapchat, and Periscope, I strongly encourage those who are already experienced with social media to check them out. And I know I've said that a couple times through the webinar. You're probably getting sick of me saying that. But the thing is just a quick example. We recently had sales associate orientation here in Kelowna, and I was speaking to someone who was brand new with Remax, and she was just about to set up her Facebook business page, and I was kind of helping walk her through those steps. And she had heard someone at SAO talking about Periscope and how it was this new great thing. So she had kind of on her social media to-do list, set up Facebook business account, then set up Periscope. Personally, I thought that was a little bit ambitious. So what I did is I pulled out my cell phone and I showed her what Periscope is actually all about, how it works, and of course, I mean, it's intimidating, right? Her eyes started to glaze over. It's a lot to take in, and that's the thing I hate to see. I hate to see when agents come in and they try to do everything, and then what ends up happening is all of these accounts just they remain stale. They don't touch them, and you know, you might as well just delete them. The key is really biting off what you can chew. So if you're social media savvy, definitely check these out. The more the better on social media once you're comfortable for it though, and that's the key. So now we're going to move over to the tools section of the webinar. I really need to speed this up a bit. I want to get you guys, I promise half an hour, so I'll try to stick as closely to that as possible. But first we're going to talk about Facebook native video. And over the past year, Facebook has been taking steps to encourage its users to upload videos natively to the site rather than posting links to outside sources such as YouTube. So if you've ever uploaded to YouTube, you probably know it's a fairly simple process, and YouTube videos pretty easily be shared wherever you want. And just to be clear, the term for native video refers to videos that are created within or uploaded directly to Facebook. So you might be wondering why you bother, right? You already uploaded it to YouTube. Why bother taking the time and also uploading that video directly to Facebook? Well, one of the biggest reasons is that Facebook's algorithm, it strongly favors native videos compared to videos that link outside. So these Facebook uploaded videos, they're also going to autoplay in friends and followers news feeds, which is huge. So if you're scrolling through your social media, through your news feed, and all of a sudden a video starts playing automatically, that's way more likely to catch your attention than just a still picture with a play button over it, which is essentially what you get by sharing a YouTube link. Just to note, the videos, as I said, they do play automatically, but with no sound. But I don't even think that's a bad thing, because a lot of times, I know for myself, speaking for myself, I've scrolled through my news feed, a video will start playing without sound, and all of a sudden I feel like I'm missing out. Like I have to hit that sound button, I have to hear what's going on. So they still grab your attention much better than just the image, like YouTube links. In March, Facebook also announced an update to its native videos that users can now embed videos posted by pages into blog posts and websites, just like what you can do with YouTube videos. So just another reason why it's worth it to upload to Facebook. And there's also research that indicates Facebook videos viewing rates are much higher than YouTube videos that are both uploaded to Facebook. So if you're an agent who has started to experiment with video a bit, maybe you're very comfortable doing it, I'd encourage you, if you're not already, upload them natively to Facebook as well. And then from there, you can do the comparison yourself. Through the Facebook Insights tab, you can go in and see how many views your Facebook video is getting, and you can compare that to what your YouTube video is getting. And yeah, just see for yourself if that's working. But before I step away from the video topic, I just really quickly want to say there's a great Facebook group out there for Remax agents, and it's called Remax Play. And essentially, this is a group of agents who have an interest in video, ranging from some people who are brand new and just want to start doing it, to other people who are very comfortable, they have a bunch of equipment, and they're more or less experts at shooting video. And this group is awesome. Users will often post their video questions, and many others jump in and provide answers or suggestions. It's just a really helpful group experience. So if you're wanting to up your video game or just learn a bit more about video, be sure, I'm going to have a contact slide at the end. I'll put you in touch. It's actually a Remax agent, Michael Thorne, who many of you know, who started this group, great group. But I will put you in touch there and make sure you get connected to that group. So just send me a message at some point and I will get you hooked up with that. So this is going to be the quickest tool slide I go through, and it's about HootSuite, and I'm sure some of you have heard of HootSuite. Many of you probably use it already. There's just one new functionality item that I think is worth mentioning, and that is that you can now schedule Instagram posts. So those of you who are used to scheduling things through HootSuite, you'll know that it's very easy to schedule a Facebook post or a Twitter post. But they announced, I think it was like a couple months ago, that now you can schedule Instagram posts. And I was super excited about this at the time because I wanted to start scheduling for our Remax Western Canada account. But just a disclaimer, it doesn't work exactly the same way it works for Facebook and Twitter. Essentially, it's like scheduling a reminder to yourself, and then it gives you all that info that you then go post into Instagram yourself. So I was really excited and then a little bit disappointed about that, but it's still a useful tool, I think. And also those who like using HootSuite typically like the fact that it's kind of a one-stop shop, a social media dashboard for managing a bunch of your accounts. And you can also kind of keep an eye on key search terms, all that kind of stuff. You can kind of build your dashboard how you like. So just quickly, HootSuite, another one worth checking out. And the final tool I want to mention, the final slide on tools, are two apps that I think are going to help your photos stand out, especially when using a network like Instagram. So I mentioned on the Instagram slide that there's an area where you can edit your photos. However, some apps, they simply take your photos to another level that's beyond Instagram's editing ability. So the first app I want to talk about is called WordSwag, and it costs a few dollars to download from the App Store, but it's an incredibly easy way to add text to existing photos, and it actually makes that text look really good. So what you can do with WordSwag is you can choose a generic background, which are all pretty cool looking, and you can essentially put a quote or something like that. So you might have seen these scrolling through Instagram. You'll see these kind of inspirational quotes, things like that, but you can kind of design how that looks, or you can even write your own words, whatever you want, a little motivation for the day, and this makes you look like you almost have a graphic design background or something like that. You can also take an existing photo and throw some text over it. So perhaps there was a house sold over asking price or something like that. Throw that little bit of text in the top of your photo, and it does it in a very cool way. So WordSwag is one worth checking out. And on the right, you're going to see two photos. Shift that so you can see. So you're going to see two photos, and they're of the same thing, but essentially the second photo looks a lot better because it's got the blurred out background, the subject, which is a girl in the dress here, she's in focus, and at first look, it looks like the photo on the right was just taken with a much better camera, much better lens, but the truth is the same photo shot the same way, but one app that they put these through is called Big Lens. And so what Big Lens is going to do is it's going to blur out your whole photo, and then you can choose what you want to be in focus. So you just kind of scroll your finger over the area you want in focus, and all of a sudden it gives an effect like the one on the screen. Again, a couple bucks to download from the App Store, but it really is going to help your photos stand out. And a lot of people on Instagram, they just use the built-in Instagram editing app. This is going to help you take your photos to the next level for sure. But one thing I want to say about apps that you have to buy, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just built into us or something. We'll spend money on the most ridiculous things, but when it comes to actually spending money on an app, like even if it's $2 or something, we just might not be interested. We might say, oh, I don't want to pay for that. There's stuff that's free or whatever. Some of these tools, for the $10 investment to get a few of these things, really, I think it's worth it. So just something to consider. Final section of this webinar, I apologize, I know I'm pushing the time a bit here, but as we get more and more accustomed to different networks and some of the new social media options, we need to realize that there are rules that apply differently to some social media networks than others. So first off, I've gotten quite a few, I've got this question quite a few times from agents. What is a hashtag? What's the purpose of a hashtag? Essentially, a hashtag is utilized to categorize something or make it easily searchable. So why I bring up hashtags on the rules section of the webinar is simply that hashtags belong on some networks, but they don't really belong on others. And some networks you can use tons, like Instagram, as I mentioned before. So from time to time, I've seen hashtags being used on Facebook, and Facebook allows these, and technically you can search hashtags, but most people who use Facebook don't use hashtags, and most people don't search Facebook to find hashtags. So personally, my thought is if you're putting a bunch of effort to add hashtags on Facebook, it might be a wasted effort. On the other hand, hashtags work quite well within both Twitter and Instagram. So by searching hashtags within Twitter, you can often find what people are saying on a certain topic or conversations. Hashtags are also awesome for events because a hashtag provides a place where anyone can search to see all of the content that is being posted about that event in real time. From Instagram, all of this is true as well. So when you upload a photo, you can include hashtags so that people who aren't following you may still be able to discover that picture you posted. The difference though, and the reason this is one of the rules of today's webinar, is that you shouldn't use hashtags the same way on Twitter that you do on Instagram. Twitter, you only have 140 characters total to work with. So I would not suggest putting more than 3 hashtags on any given tweet. On Instagram, though, hashtag overuse doesn't really exist. In fact, there's been research that shows the more hashtags, the better. So you write a sentence about the photo that you're sharing, and at the end of that paragraph, that's kind of the style people do this, go to town on the hashtags. So for example, you might do hashtag real estate, hashtag realtor. If you're from Calgary, you could do hashtag Calgary, hashtag YYC, hashtag YYC living, all of those types of things. It might take a little bit of searching on your part to see what kinds of hashtags people are using and where photos are being posted, but this is going to make your photos searchable through other avenues, so people other than your own followers can find it. So just something to know, hashtags, they work differently on every different network. And just like how hashtag use depends on the network you're using, so does the number of times you post to a network each day. So Buffer put out an article earlier this year, and it tackled the question of how often should I share on various social platforms. Here's what their suggestions were by the numbers, and take these with a grain of salt because I think some of these there's not a perfect answer for. For Pinterest, what did they say? 5 posts per day was the key number. For Twitter, 3 posts a day, which I personally think could be a bit higher, but they noted that due to research, engagement tended to slightly decrease after the 3rd tweet. I don't know about that. I think Twitter, you can send out quite a few. Google Plus, they said it's very important to post consistently. They suggest 3 times per day. Facebook, they said no more than 2 times per day. If you do more than 2, your likes and comments are probably going to drop off. LinkedIn, don't post more than once per day, they said. Again, engagement will fall off. Instagram, they said about 2 times per day, 1 or 2 times will work. And from my own experience with Snapchat and Periscope, because they didn't have these included in the article, I would say Snap as much as you like, honestly, especially the fact that people can fast forward through those photos that they're not interested in seeing. Unless you're literally posting hundreds of photos, I think you're fine to post anywhere from 5 to 10 or more per day. Periscope, if you're doing more than 1 Periscope broadcast a day, all the power to you. I don't think there's a limit. It's just time consuming, right? So, but again, if you're consistent, people might know when you'll be on. There's a couple users who I follow on Periscope who I know at a certain time per day they're likely to be on there sending out a scope. So you might be able to build some consistency that way. But just remember that each social media network, just like hashtags, frequency changes a little bit as well. And this is the final slide. I just want to talk about the last rule, which I think is acknowledging others still matters. So no matter where social media goes in the future, no matter what apps you're using right now, you still need to acknowledge others. An example of this is the best Periscope broadcast, which is not what I'm doing right now because we're using it more as a video feed, but they're the ones where you're allowing comments to happen and you're responding to those comments and you're talking to the people who are taking the time to message you while this is happening. Same with Twitter, same with Facebook. If anyone's commenting on things, it's always a good idea, especially if they're asking you questions, you need to acknowledge them and in a timely manner. People really notice this, and there's a new expectation growing that we're going to respond very quickly online through social media. So this is something, and often these social media networks are making it easy. Through Twitter and Instagram, you have a notifications tab, which will show you anytime there's any action being happening or your name being tagged and everything. So it makes it easy to kind of keep an eye on all of these things. But no matter how social media changes going forward, we still need to be receptive to our audiences and making social media more about a conversation than a place to simply broadcast. And there we go. I want to thank everyone. Wow, we got most of our viewers stayed the whole time, which is awesome. I appreciate that, even though I went over time a little bit. Same with Periscope. We had 4 or 5 consistent people watching on the video feed there. Thanks so much for that. Any questions, feel free to fire those my way. I'm going to be sticking around and I'll message you back any questions you have, that type of thing. Other than that, that's the end of the webinar. So thanks everyone so much. My contact info is on the screen, wpatterson@remax.net, the number 1-800-563-3622. Thanks so much, guys, and have a great day.